After a little travel during the holiday season, back now in time to put together the last videos from 2024 and have this video coming out on New Year's Day. Maybe, if we're lucky, this can be the first thing you find and practice you start to engage with as you explore that turnover in the year and think about new things you'd like to bring in and old things you'd like to edge out. So come along for the ride, enjoy the journey of a mindful drawing practice, and let me know what you think as you explore your own creativity through the breath, the presence, and the engagement with that medium that is the page and your instrument. Happy New Year, everybody. See you in 2025. Welcome to Mindful Drawing. I'm Robert, and I'll be your guide on this meditation practice that enters a space of mindfulness through the act of drawing. While I continue to explore a little bit of this territory mapped out during the exercise, the thing that we'll engage with here in just a minute or so is an expression, a flowing out, a hovering engagement with the space of the page and the feeling of the medium. A nice marker there for most of the exercise, a little bit of pen here and there to lighten it up. The intention or goal here is a very light opening and release, letting the eyes take a step back, letting the internal rhythms and sensations become guides to our interaction. A deep noticing and awareness of that near connection with the paper, the hand always hovering just above, lightly touching for stabilization, or even living in a space, a plane, just above that paper for good technique, not to get too smeary or smudgy. But what we find in the exercise is a mapping out of an internal landscape, feelings, textures, sensations, all guiding what takes place on the page, producing sometimes a bit of structured chaos or wobbliness, at other times perhaps a nice consistent rhythm, that rhythm of the breath in and out, flowing through us onto the paper, finding a space of relaxation, a space of openness to awareness, a mindful presence that can create this territory on the paper or whatever you end up working with. And you'll see in the warm-up exercise, my choice is continuous line, the pen staying down and moving with me. But there may be many other ways to work with that. Perhaps a series of short, crisp shapes. Perhaps closed little circles or ovals. Perhaps small, quick wanderings or long, careful maneuverings. Whatever comes to mind as you work is totally open to you. And the point of these exercises is to let a little space of relaxation, let a little technique focusing become the opening of a door for your own self-expression. So all you need is some piece of paper, some pen or pencil instrument to draw with, and that time to give yourself 25 minutes to engage here with the paper. So go ahead and gather your supplies, establish your space, and let's draw together. Pretty open choice on medium for today. I think I'll use a pen and a marker. It shows up clear on the screen if you need to see it, but anything will work. The drawing will be a loosening, a lightening, bit of a hovering feel to the mark making. And to warm up or prepare to enter into that space of a light hover, maybe we can even just begin with the sensation of it with our hands, letting them sit just a bit above the page or surface where you're going to draw, sketchbook, notebook paper, anything here that can accept a mark from a pen or pencil. And get pretty close to where you almost start to feel the presence of the paper below. Just let them hover there for a second or two, forming that space and connection to the surface of interaction. They might drift around, flutter a bit as we're sensing through our touch and our proprioception the proximity and closeness to something in the body, adjusting and adapting, keeping things clear. As far as the technique or application warm up, I might do a good amount of early drawing with the eyes closed or lightly focused, mostly out of the page, out of the picture, as we get some things on there with that same sense of hovering. So what we can start to do to warm up is find a way of holding the pen or pencil that lets your arm hover there above the page, maybe just a finger lightly close to that page to know where it's at, but otherwise the instrument is the primary connection to which we sense our place in space. And with that instrument, finding some ways to move it around, that light kind of hovering, floating condition, just a little back and forth. You can bring to mind ideas of something like a hummingbird or some other avian creature soaring on the currents, present there, but held by other forces. And now, as my arm moves, it's just this continuous, a little bit scribble. I'm going to practice using both hands just to feel it out and keep some connection and symmetry to the mind and body. But you could do other things, move around, make small shapes or completions, make little marks of curving, local drifting and playing. And in the technique warm up, finding something that feels light, that gives you a little sense of that hovering over the space. And it will be our entry and our opening into really entering that moment of presence, prescience between touching, connecting, and moving, just hovering above. So taking a couple more moments, finding your mark for the exercise. And as we go along with eyes lightly shut or disengaged, whatever I draw that shows on the screen, or what you might draw, just become your own thing, letting it unfold in your space of the drawing. I think I'll let mine be a light meandering there, but any curves will take us through. As we get farther along through the exercise, we might let the eyes re-engage and find ways to give presence or extra shape to those little bits. But moving to a fresh page in the sketchbook or a new piece of paper or the back side of whatever you are already working on. Going ahead and preparing yourself with the mediums you'd like to work with. Go do a little combination of marker and pen, something that moves smooth and light. Taking a few breaths to engage with that new piece of paper, with the eyes less present. We might want to feel out our boundaries, just have a sense of roughly where we go and how much movement we have. Keep it pretty light, somewhere around the center. If you feel comfortable shutting the eyes completely, just letting them sit softly, letting the hand hover above the page, and taking note of when the pen, pencil, or marker touch down, letting it sit there for a minute and be that connection between our stance and the paper. And then as you feel ready, letting the hand begin to move with the technique or mark of the warm-up or anything else that comes to mind as you're here, present. For me, I feel a sense to let the whole body kind of become a part of it. A little sway back and forth, a little feeling the directions, moving forward and back. The torso, at the legs, depending on your position, a little moving left and right, a lean or a sway, a little moving around, hitting all the points of a circle lightly, maybe directly or in a wobble star pattern, but feeling out the edges of where your body can lean, can rock, can swivel. All of that hovering the hand there in space, suspended over the page by the end of the instrument. And that movement with the eyes closed brings us into connection with our body, with our space. But if at any time you feel perhaps a little imbalanced, loss of grounding, please feel free to open the eyes or stop and take a breath or two. And we'll let that movement slowly settle in somewhere. Find some stability. The pencil can lift and reposition at any time. The eyes can help to find that place at any time. With everything worked out, warmed up, and moved around, we can bring a lighter, more localized hovering into the next engagement. Starting similar, the nice breath of grounding and presence, letting the pen or pencil come into contact with the page, hovering the hand above, held there, that small point of expression, and then beginning to let the hand make your marks. As the hand lightly hovers around, back and forth, along a path or continuous curve, start to breathe and be a part of that breath with the movement. Noticing at first when you breathe in how the hand is moving. Noticing when you breathe out the speed of movement. As you listen to the sounds of the inhalation and exhalation, as you observe the two worlds, the movement of the hand, the movement of the torso and the body with the breath coming together. Look for that connection. Maybe it's just a change of direction or pacing between each cycle. that rhythm entering into the space of the drawing through the movement of the hand, the gentle hovering of the instrument over the page, the lightness of the breath in space, filling us up a little bit, and then allowing for complete emptying and exhalation. All presence and attention coalescing in that space between the cycles of breath. And the soft touch of a medium on a paper. The hand moves on its own. The gentle texture of the page through the instrument gives us some feedback. Tells us where we are. Reminds the fingers to stay engaged loosely, not too tight. Enough to hold and guide that instrument. But just enough. Not too much pressure to push or pull in any specific way. Just kind of a positioning here and there with the breath, providing cues and opportunities for the motion. And at various times you might find a moment to take a rest from the action, to change hands, to try something new, to let the eyes take in new positions of the page before disengaging them again from the process. A slight remembrance of what they see, and then a re-entering a little bit more strongly tied now to the breath. Movement comes with the inhalation. Movement comes with the exhalation. Perhaps even a bit of pause in between each case. Letting us sit with the air at the top of the breath and release with movement, and a rest with the emptiness at the bottom of the breath. And reinvigorate the hand with the inhalation. Reaching each time that asymptote of the cycle in with a slight pause for a second or two, and out. With some stillness in that empty space. Take a few moments at your own cadence, your own breathing cycle. Eyes open or closed, whatever is comfortable, to follow this rhythm. Listen to the space around you. And be present with those cycles of inhalation and exhalation. And then focused attention on the breath, the fullness of inhalation and exhalation, the pause, the bottom and the top of the cycles brings a lot of oxygen in, brings a lot of air to the body. Feel it a little bit in the head, in the limbs, and the fingers, a tingle here or there, just a lightness. Sets us up to be present and engaged, to be relaxed and open. As your hand comes to rest for a little bit, whenever you feel comfortable, the eyes re-engage with the paper to look and see what takes place. The forms, the tangles, the overlaps, the strokes, each different for every page. Let the eye wander across it for a little bit. Notice if there's any reaction or memory from the time of making the marks. Drawn to places, perhaps, of collision and density or anomaly and deviation. And then choosing somewhere, anywhere to begin an engagement again. Tracing along, following existing paths, extending curves outwards, adding small shapes, or shading spaces in between, finding kind of any way to re-engage with this found territory, present on its own terms. And this could be a place of play, exploration. You might change it up as we go, but starting somewhere, finding paths or connection, opportunity in that hovering oscillation manifest from a little time of breathing and moving. For me, there's an inside and an outside shape or behavior, and I'm interested in bringing them together in some way. Some light lines filling out some space between. Extending one curve to another, linking them in series over a territory, empty but lightly there, gaining presence through tone on the paper. Each new traversal of a line or curve, a reading or a mapping of the territory on the paper, changing the way you see, and the way it reads. As the hand moves, you bring back into attention some of the lightness explored in the beginning, the hovering between. Notice if it's resting heavy after doing a bit of work early on, and you bring it a bit of lightness. Depending on position and the way you're drawing, you may be able to fully float the hand above, perhaps ever so lightly suspend it on the pinky finger, just the tip of a ball of the hand, the palm. Just enough to stabilize, but stay out of the way of the marks present with a bit of technique to avoid smearing and keep the curves growing, the lines filling and expanding, the world mapped into something new. During this time, with so much already existing there on the paper, experiment, play, try different things in different areas. The drawing is likely to contain a lot of variation, a lot of pressure, collision, and overlap. The eyes being closed. Let novel things unfold. So trying out different ways of reading, different ways of marking in each space. Give yourselves a few minutes of just quietly exploring the layers present there in front of you. As you explore here the territory that unfolds, you're mapping a map of whatever was guiding the hand during that time of being inside, of closing the eyes and letting things move more freely. That time of a lightness, a hovering engagement with the paper. And we may never know or need to know what the map is following. Sensations, air currents, feelings, could be many things guiding its position, behavior, intensity, freely flowing out there on the page, providing a unique territory for play, examination, or maybe a bit of visual reading or analysis, each open to its own approach. Think about, in these last couple of minutes of the exercise, what you find yourself drawn to. The densities or open spaces, the shapes, the figures, the anti-figure, the wiggle and wobble, the lack of coherence, that softness of complexity. Now mapping both on the page and back inside a little bit, the dialogue opened up here between yourself, your eyes, your own visual readings of things, having a little time to reflect on how you engage with a medium, whether you draw a lot or this is a new exercise. Our senses process and our mind thinks, and somewhere in between we find our own way of operating, whether that's aesthetically, artistically, or just situations throughout the day. Starting with the very big or starting with the small, unraveling complexity or drifting towards simplicity, noticing your behaviors and tendencies, being present with them a little bit, opens them up to that conversation. As we approach the end of the exercise, feel free to keep drawing and moving if you like, looking for that time to rest the hand, time to let the eye soften again. The exercise is a little bit of work for the mind, the hand, all connected. The constant reading, rereading, through engagement, hovering and holding to the hand while building connection with the drawing, something within that medium of expression. And as you feel ready, bring the pen or pencil to rest, let it sit to the side, notice the placing down, the closing out of your direct connection to the paper, the eyes, a few blinks, slowly drop that entering in of the space and moving back away, again hovering outside of the drawing, something created there. And take a couple of breaths as you listen to the space around you. Maybe roll the shoulders a little bit to get everything back connected and present. Take a strong, deep breath and fill out. And on the exhalation, open your eyes and close the exercise for now. When we let go a bit of the control or refocus that control of the body and mind to something else, something more internal, something more direct and central, that hovering of the pencil, that timing and rhythm of the breath out onto the page, we open up opportunity for the mind to see a little differently. We get out of the way of some of the systems of the body. The hand begins moving, tracing and tracking on its own, without the eyes to know what it looks like. I'm free to feel the motion that brings the mark. Be present just in the leaving of a trace of an action. And then we can re-engage and begin to look through the eyes new at something that wasn't there before. A newness, a novelness, a place of exploration and creation without knowing really what it will bring. Maybe in the end, just something abstract, formal, playful. Maybe we find pattern, we find an expression of a known thing in that space. But there's a good chance it just becomes its own territory, mapped in our way, found the way of holding, the way of breathing, the way of moving in action. Something there that captures a little bit of us and a little bit of our time and lets us relax into a new space of expression. So hope you've enjoyed working through that territory. If you like the exercises, you find them inspiring or relaxing, let me know in the comments below what you find there. Tell your friends and give it a thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe for more episodes each week, usually on Wednesday mornings, so we'll have a little off week here and there during the holiday season with travel and access to tools. But you can always go back and look through the back catalog of ways of entering a space of mindfulness through the act of drawing and find for yourself a bunch of techniques that can be present with you during the exercise and can also go out to anything you do in the day. All you need is a writing instrument, something to take that mark, and a couple of minutes to give yourself that time to connect with your expression. I thank you for joining and draw well.